And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, have a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you happen to be listening anywhere else and you wanted to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. And you can find me on Rumble, Coffee Talk 2 with the number 2, being joined today by two felines. I've got Granny Smith down here and then Monkey coming into the room and hanging around with me, keeping me company today as we get ready to jump off and get started here. And I'll go ahead and take a look and see who is chiming in on the live portion. See, JJ has joined us today, as well as Helter, Brian, Dragon, Raccoon, Jeff, and Tuck. Glad you could make it today. Hello to everyone else who may be watching or listening that cannot or does not want to chime in, and that's fine. Glad you could join us anyway as we get ready to jump off here. As alluded to by the thumbnail, we will be discussing, to some extent, reciprocal tariffs. We'll be talking about the tariffs in the news and the panic from people who, A, don't know what tariffs are, B, don't understand how economy or the stock market works, and C, just don't want to know because they want to have another reason to dislike Trump because they've been trained to do so. I see Paul has joined us today, as well as Puck, who says cats. Yes, always felines. We love our felines. And again, as we get ready to jump out here, I'm sure you saw this already. This rolled out yesterday. Big deal. Big deal. And this is going to be, who has this? A Reuters article, because this is being talked about globally. It is global news because it does affect many countries. And there's a few, again, aspects of this, some nuances that I'm going to dive in and out of. But just to give you the basics here, and I see Cyberjack Sr. has joined us and says thumbs up. Please do, folks, if you don't mind. I'll take all the thumbs up I can get. Trump unveils global reciprocal tariffs. Hooray. Trump unveils global reciprocal. Oh, well. Am I still there? Here we go. It got weird for a second. So here we are. President Donald Trump Wednesday unveiled global reciprocal tariffs during an event at the White House, following our highlights of Trump's remarks. And he has a couple of quotes here. In many cases, the friend is worse than the foe in terms of trade. We subsidize a lot of countries and keep them going and keep them in business. Why are we doing this? I mean, at what point do we say you've got to work for yourselves? We are finally putting America first. Trade deficits are no longer merely an economic problem. They are a national emergency, talking about in the United States. Trump held up a board showing the new rates charged on most countries. Rates ranged from 10% to 49% on the first board and up to 50% on later boards. With a few exceptions based on the charts Trump read out, the tariff rate being imposed by the U.S. on most countries was around literally half of what those countries already charge us. There were some exceptions in which the U.S. charged the exact rate that those countries charged according to the chart. And in instances where the exact rate was being charged, you'll find that it's like 10%. It's like a flat rate of 10% charged by that country. Why is this being done? It's being done, well, first of all, Trump did this in his first term, and the economy was fine. He was doing this in his first term. Biden shut it off, okay, especially where China was concerned. Puck says they've heard Canada and Israel are dropping their tariffs. Has anyone else done it? I haven't heard that. Somebody said that about Canada yesterday, actually, but I'm not sure. Sven says the market see a planned sell of and panic selling. Sell off, you mean, and panic selling. Finally, I'll have a chance to buy in. Yes, you will. And I'm going to get to that, actually. I'm going to be getting to that point. Fluke Man has joined us. This is being done. One of the main reasons is because more than 170 countries already imposed tariffs on the United States. They are already doing this. They have been doing it in some cases for decades, completely unchallenged. The U.S. was not doing it to them. So they could import U.S. goods without a tariff. But if we sent anything to them, we had to pay extra. We had to pay extra, which is unacceptable. Why are we giving everyone else a break, but they get to screw us over? It is basically Trump's question. And again, there are places where it's a flat, simple 10%. And so Trump matched it. Fair enough. Everyone else charges much more, and he only charged half, literally, up and down the board, what those places were already charging. And yeah, Puck, I'm going to get to that too, talking about Russia. I will be getting to that too. Sven says Canada did also, but they talk shit in the process. In some instances, Canada charges damn near 250%. It depends on what it is. For some reason, they charge crazy amounts on dairy products. So they've got the breakdown list here. You know, Algeria 30%, Oman 10%, Uruguay 10%, Bahamas 10%, Lesotho 50%. Ukraine to them because that's all they did to us. Fair enough, 10% is not that bad. Fiji 32%, Iceland 10%, Kenya 10%. We import anything from Kenya? Liechtenstein 37%, Guyana 30. Oh, where was Guyana? 38%, and so on. Bosnia 35%. And you know, you can find the list easy enough. I don't have to read all of it, I don't think. But again, our European Union 20% because they charge us like around 40. Actually, Vietnam 46. Cambodia 49. What do we get from Cambodia besides really cheap clothing? I don't get it. Sri Lanka 44. Some of these throw me way off. You know, most of the rest of them is 10%. New Zealand, United Arab Emirates, Dominican Republic, Argentina, Ecuador, Guatemala, Honduras, 10% flat across the board. And then you see the oddballs here that are just crazy. But why do they all get to charge us? And this is just a reciprocal list of some of the main ones. Why do they get to charge us and we don't charge them? JJ says it would seem Trump's message is no more free rides, be it slack NATO participation or high tariffs on U.S. goods. And Flukeman suggests it's immigrants we get from Kenya. Yeah, we should be charging for that. That's what we should be doing, charging for the immigrants. But also, more importantly, one of the main functions here and what he's trying to do is that if the States is able to do this, they can walk back income tax and get away from the IRS. That's ultimately what he's shooting for. We'll do it the way we did it before World War II, way back in the day, in the early 1900s, when we were 100% the wealthiest country ever. Puck suggests we got Narnia and Atlantis on that list. Oh my God. That we have the external, and we read the article a week ago, the external revenue service is being fired up. The external revenue service oversees this kind of stuff, as opposed to the internal revenue service that beats the hell out of the middle class. basically. They torture people in the middle class and beat them down and rip them off. He wants to get away from that and go back to the way it used to be done when the government didn't need the public's money. That's the idea. I like that idea. Big Red said Democrats actively root against America and hope for America's failure. And Kimberly is here. Glad you could make it, Kimberly. And it's a warm day today. It's in the 80s in Georgia. 80s. It's in the 80s in Georgia. Very warm yesterday, too. So, yeah, summer is hitting us like a brick. This is what's going on here. And people are crying about it. They're crying about it. And one of the big ones that they're crying about, and this was already brought up by Puck. So I'll go ahead and I'll open this, and I believe this is a BBC article. And this is going to be one of the big talking points. One of the big talking points from people that are opposed to this and people from the Democratic Party that are trying to sideline everybody. And it's real easy to play smoke and mirrors with this. It says Russia not on Trump's tariff list. Neither is North Korea or Bahrain. I think Bahrain is not on there. Let's see. It says one country that did not feature on Trump's list of tariffs on U.S. trade partners was Russia. U.S. outlet Axios quoted White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt as saying this was because existing U.S. sanctions on Russia preclude any meaningful trade, and noting Cuba, Belarus, and and North Korea are also not included. Those places are already, without getting too deep into this article, these places are already so heavily sanctioned or already had tariffs placed against them. I know there were already tariffs against metal and minerals that were being imported from Russia, like aluminum and stuff like that. We already had tariffs against Russia anyways, as well as sanctions against Russia. I don't think anything comes from North Korea or Cuba. There's no point. If they're already sanctioned into the ground and already have, or as maximum possible sanctions you could get away with, and already have tariffs against them, there's no point adding them to a reciprocal tariff list. The purpose of the reciprocal tariff list is that we were not imposing tariffs against those countries at all. It's really very simple. If that's the counter argument. That's what Puck is being sarcastic here. He says Trump is Putin's puppet. That's what they're saying. Oh, look, I noticed that Russia's not on that list. Russia's already got tariffs. So since we're already doing it, how could we be on a reciprocal list that is designed to impose tariffs on countries that charge us that we never charged before? It's I've heard both. ARN says, about the pronunciation. I've heard tariffs and I've heard tariffs. I don't know which one is correct, honestly. I've heard both pronunciations. I don't know if it matters. It's kind of like zebra and zebra. They're both right, but it just matters where you come from, I suppose. Kimberly says their black truck is green, 20,000 plus pollen count. Yeah, there's a lot of pollen. A lot of pollen floating around out here. Sven says this will hurt, that it'll bring industry back and already has to the tune of over $4 trillion. Tuck says nothing comes from Cuba except Cubans. Monkey, yeah, Russia is sanctioned. Posting tariffs on Russia is pointless. And then Guardian says he's always loved the U.S. deeply. I really hope that all these changes benefit the U.S. as a nation. My only concern is that things are about to go from bad to worse here in South Africa. Well, South Africa, honestly, and that's a whole different topic of discussion. It's been a shit show since Mandela. Really, since Mandela was released. Never mind when he became president. But since Mandela, South Africa always had problems. It's gotten so much worse all the time. And it's really a shame. Monkey says, just like volunteering and you get 1,000% pay raise, useless. And Big Red said there's an all-white town in South Africa, which is the only safe place. Oh, no. That's a shame. That is a shame. But yeah, I mean, that's the talking point. I've seen it kicked all over social media. Oh my God, I noticed Russia's not on the list and North Korea. What have you ever imported from North Korea? What have you ever bought that's North Korean or from Cuba? I mean, seriously. Sven says South Africa is set to fail. I was offered a job there, normally 100,000, now over $1 million a year, and no one is taking it. I wouldn't go there either. It's not safe. It's just not safe, especially if you're Caucasian. Yeah, that's the argument. That's the very far left liberal argument. Oh, see, it proves there's collusion with Russia. Russia obviously is pulling Trump's strings because he did not put reciprocal tariffs. Do you understand what reciprocal means? No. Can I explain it to you? No. That's the problem. Mostly I'm preaching to the choir. People are not really willing to listen to a reasonable argument. And things are going to be weird for a little while because there has to be an adjustment period. And Dilo has joined us. Glad you could make it. Monkey says even Trump posted tariffs on islands with no population. People thought it's stuff, but in reality, you got to make sure so people don't loophole it exactly. And I have that actually pulled up here. I have that on my list of things to discuss because one in particular is an island that is owned technically by Australia. It's an Australian island. This is a Newsweek article. I was going to bring this up. People are picking on him for this, but it does make sense from a business perspective. Newsweek, Donald Trump puts tariffs on islands inhabited only by penguins and seabirds. It says President Donald Trump has announced new tariffs on a collection of remote islands despite the fact their only residents are penguins. Tariffs are part of a new plan, blah, blah, blah. We know this. So we'll get to the what to know part. Trump has announced tariffs on the uninhabited volcanic Heard and McDonald Islands, which are remote territories inhabited by penguins, seals, and seabirds. The islands were included because they are Australian territory. Citing a White House official, an information guide to the islands on an Australian government website describes Heard and McDonald Islands as one of the wildest and most remote places on Earth. That is true. It says they've only had a visitation from nobody has been to that island within the last 10 years, basically. No one has gone to that island in the last 10 years. Why do that? People may not be aware of this. Those islands have a 10% tariff on Australia's books against the United States. Did you know that? Look it up. I'm not kidding. Australia imposes a 10% tariff against the United States from all of its territories, including these islands. So, as was pointed out earlier, as far as it being a possible loophole, okay, which is what Monkey was suggesting, to close that loophole, he made sure those islands were also covered by encompassing it as a whole, Australia and related territories. It's a safety net for, like you hear in the movies, people talk about like dummy corporations and offshore accounts and things like that in TV shows or whatever. That's an opening for that sort of okie doke from Australia if they wanted to import goods from the United States. On paper, they could import it through that island and get around it if it wasn't covered. And Dilo says thumbs up. Yeah, please do, guys. Guardian says, don't mean to steer the conversation to my neck of the woods. I think the current situation may help America, a country rooting for you guys. We appreciate it. You're fine, Guardian. You guys can talk about whatever you want. Usually I try to avoid the side conversations a little bit, but you know, as long as everybody's being civil, it's cool. And Sven says you can flag a company through an uninhabited territory. Exactly. That's why that's being done. But of course, the media is having a field day with this. And trust me, the media, politicians, activists, they understand why this was done. But they are counting on that the average person does not understand, just like with the Russia and Cuba not getting tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, that is, so that they can put a pin on it and say, see, I told you. And most people are not smart enough to see through that. And most people are too lazy to actually do the research, too lazy to bother to look it up and find out information like that. Hey, that island, those islands have tariffs against us. How's that possible when it's uninhabited, when people haven't even been to that island? The last time anybody was there was just researchers about 10 years ago. Why is that? How come North Korea didn't get reciprocal tariffs? What does reciprocal tariffs even mean? Most people have no idea, but they hear what seems like the bad thing and they'll run with it because that's what sheep do. That's what sheep do. They all flow in the same direction. Nobody stops and looks around to say, hey, wait a minute, where are we going? And there's JJ says, yes, deception by leaving out key pieces of information. And that is called equivocation. That is the art of equivocation. I'll tell you the truth, but only this part. I'm going to leave the rest of the truth out because you'll fill in the blanks, but you'll probably fill it in with the wrong information because you're going to get emotional about it and not think. Not think. Paul says most people are dumb, like the people damaging Teslas. Correct. Tux calls it lying by omission. Lying by omission. Exactly. The other big complaint, everybody is finger pointing, sitting there saying, look at the stock market. Oh my God, it's going down. It's going down. Of course it is. Of course it's going down. You know why it's going down? Because there are changes. Anyone who is familiar with the stock market, anybody who's familiar with economy, knows that a change like this is going to cause fluctuation. And it's going to be a global fluctuation. And there have been several in our lifetime. This sort of thing happens from time to time. You wait long enough, it'll recover. Right now, the reason the stocks are going down, and not even that much, it's negligible. I've looked at it. Not even by that much. Okay? They're going down because all the people that are speculative or that do not understand how the stock market works or do not know how to play the long game are dumping whatever they have into the market, which is good for people who do know how to play the long game, because when it gets low enough, they'll scoop it up and hold it, and then they'll wait. They'll scoop it up and hold on to it, and then they'll wait. So let's open up. How about the Dow Jones? We'll open up Dow and take a look at this real quick, just to nail that point down. Here it comes, and we'll talk about it real quick. Monkey said it comes down to whether you would rather kick the can further down or take care of the problem now. People are freaking out over short term when long term is better. True. Sven says the market will go back up on investment, back on American soil like factories. Puck said stock market is notorious for knee-jerk reaction to almost anything. And ARN says he heard someone say America will make $5 trillion every 2 months with new tariffs. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. That'd be great. It would sure fix the deficit, wouldn't it? But here's the Dow. This is today's market watch. Currently, it sits at 40,795. It opened at 41,123. That's a relatively minor drop. A little bit. That's not bad. That's really not bad. It was lower earlier in the day. It fell as low as, I think the lowest point here is 40,652. 40,652 is the lowest dip. But to make the point, let's look at a year. Let's open up the year. Same time last year, if I can get it, 39,127 is where it closed. So it's higher now than it was April 3rd, 2024. It's higher right now than it was April 3rd, 2024, but people are still shitting their pants. Why are they doing that? Because they don't know any damn better. They don't know. I'm sorry. I just got majorly distracted by a post that my wife just now texted me. Let me close this for a second. I got to show you this. I don't normally do this, but she just now sent me this text. She just passed a restaurant and took a picture of their sign. I know. Look at this. You ready? New restaurant in the Atlanta area. The Thug Kitchen. It looks like they sell tacos. Thug Kitchen, know what I'm saying? Yeah, boy. Hook me up with that Thug Kitchen. Get my drip going. I did. It's the Thug Kitchen, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, no. What kind of world are we living in? Thug nasty, nasty Thug Kitchen. Okay. Oh my God. Paul says it'll drop 40% soon. Sven says up over the year. Raccoon thinks that's funny. It is. Let me open this back up. I'll open the screen back up so we can finish what we were talking about. There's going to be some minor dips. There's going to be some minor dips. Or there could be a big dip in a couple of places. That's normal. That's normal with any kind of change. Give it a chance to adjust. But, you know, again, I'm preaching to the choir mostly because the naysayers, right? If I was sitting here talking with someone who was like, you have no idea, Trump is working for Russia and he's trying to destroy America and we're going to turn into a third world country and whatever. Bernie Sanders, basically. Donald Trump. A year from now, things can be looking absolutely fantastic. You could have $1.50 gas. The national debt could be cut by half. Income taxes could be cut by half. Whatever, they'll still sit there and piss all over you. Oh, that's just the setup to get you comfortable so that Trump can ruin us all. He's got his finger on the button. You don't understand. Oh, JJ suggested it should be Cartel Kitchen if they got tacos. Monkey said, unironically, you typically find the best food you'll ever eat in more sketchy ghetto areas. Actually, I'm kind of a fan of Waffle House myself. There's not too many other restaurants I can go to anymore. All the family-friendly restaurants and whatever. Every time my wife and I, we rarely go out to an actual restaurant. Whenever I end up in a restaurant and we eat, it's like, let's not ever come back again to someplace like this. This is awful. This is awful. The food is so bad. And then the service has gotten bad. There's a couple of local places that are family owned that we really like, and Waffle House. And I don't think there's much left. There you go. Tuck says, Thug Foodie Life, baby. I know it. I know it, right? That just really threw me off. She sent me the text and I looked, out of the corner of my eye and I'm like, oh my God. Brian says liberals are turning us into a third world country. And Trump said that himself. He says, go anywhere else in the world and just take a good look at even just the airport. Compare American airports to airports almost anywhere else, and tell us we're not already in a third world country. I heard him say that some time ago, and he's got a point. I mean, not in Europe, a lot of them look like shit. But what do you expect? Western Europe. I mean, Eastern Europe. What some of the Western European ones? Oh, they're amazing. And China and the Middle East, there's some great stuff. But yeah, I mean, you're already seeing that. He said, how did he put it? We got all these trillions of dollars in debt. Okay, you know what? That'd be fine if we had good roads, good bridges, decent looking, decent functional schools, hospitals, whatever. We don't. Everything here is falling apart. The infrastructure is in terrible shape. And we owe a fortune because we're giving away the money to everybody. And ARN says, don't fall for the fear sale. If you're prepped, it doesn't matter what they say to scare you. Excellent, ARN. And I'm always an advocate for that. We made fun of that last week with the European Union telling people to stockpile. I love the terminology. You must stockpile at least 72 hours worth of food and water provisions for emergencies, as we're facing the possibility of war here in Eastern Europe. And it's like stockpile 72 hours worth of food. And the sad part about that, of course, is most people don't even have 3 days worth of food or water in their homes. They don't have it. They don't have it. You should, in my opinion, have at least 6 months worth of food and at least a week or two worth of water if you have the space. I mean, if you're in an apartment, there's not much you can do, but you should also have a system packed away for the filtration of said water if necessary. Kimberly said we need more of Mrs. Dave. She's witty and a joy to watch. She is. I wish she could come on more. I wish we could. I wish she could come on more. She just can't. She came on. I thought it was raining for a second. I hear a hiss. She came on because she was home early, and she was like, "Hey, can I sit in?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, of course." Tuck says we're going to turn. We already have shanty towns, tent cities, looting mobs. Yeah, exactly. That is a good point. All People says Thug Kitchen. If you import third world, as the U.S. done it since '65, you'll inherit third world. Indeed, absolutely, indeed, that is true. Sven says I was at an airport in Tajikistan. It looked like an old spy movie, but it was clean. I'm sure. Oh, wow. Paul says that's not stockpiling. I have 7 years. Excellent, Paul. That's great if you got the space for it. Everybody should have a pantry with dry goods stocked away, water, and a filtration system for when that water runs out. Because again, I acknowledge completely, most people don't have the space. I mean, a lot of people, they're in apartments. What are you going to do? You can designate a closet maybe, but do the best you can. Do the best you can. Do the best you can. Always. I've talked about that a lot on the Prepper channel. But yeah, I mean, if Mrs. Coffee Talk can come on again, I'd be happy to have her. Because and it's fun. I always enjoy when she's around. Now we'll get away from Tariffs for a minute here. I thought this was interesting, and this is an article from the Christian Post online magazine talking about an evangelical teacher in Ireland. Look at the way they treat you in Ireland and the UK and all across the Western world for that matter. Evangelical teacher suspended for not using trans pronouns will have 43,000 taken from his bank accounts under court order. They're fining him 43,000 and seizing it from his holdings. And an evangelical Christian from Ireland who was suspended from his teaching job is to have over $43,200. That's 43,200 US as opposed to 40,000 euros. forcibly removed from his bank account because of a court order. Enoch Burke was first suspended from his job as a teacher at Wilson's Hospital School, a Church of Ireland school in Westmeath, following a disagreement with the school's principal about the school's policy towards a student who wanted to socially transition and identify as the opposite sex. Burks publicly voiced an opinion to using the student's new name and they-them pronouns and the school's position on affirming transgenderism. Despite being suspended pending a disciplinary review, Burke continued going to the school grounds, saying he had come to teach his class before the school received a high court injunction barring him from the premises. He had a restraining order put against him. Burke went on to breach the injunction and was then arrested for contempt of court, leading to a bizarre game of cat and mouse in which Burke was at various times in jail and then back to school. He now owes around $85,500 in unpaid court fines. The High Court has now issued an absolute order to the Bank of Ireland requesting it to transfer $43,200 from Burke's account to a court services account within the next 7 days, which of course Burke is refusing to cooperate. But I mean, he doesn't have to cooperate. He doesn't have to cooperate for them to actually do that. All People says we love Miss Coffee Talk. She's beautiful and brilliant and has a bubbly personality. Yes, she does. She's a genuinely happy, joyful person. That's actually the first thing I ever noticed about her. And she knows the story. The first thing I noticed was actually her smile, because what struck me about her smile was it looked genuine. You know how people smile and it seems fake? What her smile looked like, she was a person that had real joy in them. It was genuine happiness. And that struck me. I was like, wow, look at this person, you know? So yeah, she's a real happy, bubbly person. She really is. JJ says government sanctioned theft at its finest. If they have that little disregard for him, perhaps he should consider how to steal his money back from the government. Wow, yeah. I mean, how do you rack up 80, where was the number? 85,500 or 79,100 euros in court fees. That's bullshit. They just did that to him on purpose, to make an example out of him, to make everyone else afraid to stand up for themselves. This guy basically sat there and said, you're not throwing me out of my job, and you're not going to force me to call this person they, them, because I just don't believe it. You call them that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. They suspended him. They put a restraining order on him. They put him in jail, and they mired him in fees and penalties. And of course, he'll never work anywhere else. Excuse me. Where's he going to get a job now? That's modern Ireland for you. That's modern Ireland for you. Unfortunately, that's the direction that their government has gone in. I can't say the people have gone that way. The people there have been trying to resist. We've read the stories. They've been trying to fight this, but the government is crushing them. The government, the Irish government, is crushing them. And again, you're seeing that all across the Western world with right now the United States being the only Western country starting to push this back. The only Western country currently trying to push this back. Flukeman says, I'll call the person bugger off. Yeah. Bugger off. He has a right. You know, if you want to pretend to be something else, you go ahead and do that. Don't force me to have to acknowledge it. There are people out there pretending to be dogs, wearing a little dog mask and crawling around on their hands and knees being led by another person on a leash. You want to pretend to be a dog? I don't care. Don't ask me to pet him. Keep that away from me. I have a right, I should have a right to say, nah, you know what? I don't like that. Stay the hell away from me. And all across the Western world, they've been trying to take that from us. And again, right now, the United States is the only Western country pushing that actively back and resisting it. Jumping to a Fox News article here about Tesla again. Tesla protesters tempted to key cars, but say they reject vandalism as acceptable forms of resistance. Oh, isn't that nice? This group doesn't want to do vandalism, even though they're tempted to vandalize Tesla vehicles. It says, from Molotov cocktails to keying of cars, Tesla locations and vehicles have faced numerous acts of violence in recent weeks. Fox News Digital spoke with protesters in New York City on Saturday about whether they believed vandalism, which has caught the attention of the Justice Department, to be effective. The protest was one of over 200 Tesla takedown demonstrations planned Saturday along the U.S. and the world, around the U.S. and in the world. The purpose of the protest was to rally against Doge. According to the website, the protest was a peaceful movement opposing violence, vandalism, and destruction of property, even though that's what's happening globally. We read the article earlier this week about the Tesla dealership in Italy that was set on fire by what appeared to be a Korean man. Most of these people are being violent. You can say that you don't want that, and then you're still protesting it. You want to protest? Don't buy a Tesla. How about that? And why do we have people in other countries protesting Doge? Worry about your own country. And Flukeman said, anyone hear about the Japanese guy that spent $12,000 on a dog suit to pretend to be a dog? I do remember that guy. He was a German Shepherd. I saw that article. ARNs saw a competition online where the master makes the human dog do tricks. I saw one with horses too, where people dress up like a horse. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean, you're protesting. Do you have a Tesla? What are you protesting exactly? You're protesting other people's right to own or purchase a Tesla. This is why it's not going to work. This is why it's not going to work. Let me put that up from Flukeman. Yeah, Musk is technically African. He is legitimately African American. Although Jesse Jackson wouldn't like that. And here's a quote from this weird-looking woman in the picture here, Maggie from Park Slope. And Maggie says, I have to resist with every fiber of my being not to key a Tesla when I see one. But no. I mean, the people who bought Teslas, frankly, I think a lot of them have buyer's regret. And they wish they didn't have the car. They're trading them in at record pace. I haven't read any stories about that. I haven't read any stories about people trading in Teslas, except for celebrities. Except for celebrities. But regular people, I haven't read that anywhere. Have you? Maybe I missed something. And she has to. This old prude here has to resist with every fiber of her being not to vandalize a Tesla when she sees one, because she's so mad at Elon Musk. Yeah, okay, lady. Okay. These people need mental health. JJ says ScrewTube doesn't like his comments about Ireland, and they're erasing his comments. Really? Doesn't surprise me. And Puck reminds us about Volkswagen and Nazi Germany and Versace too, right? Kimberly says one person is not a they them. I will call it it. Yeah. Brian says she looks like she's got something wrong with her. I don't know if I can say that word, Brian. Isn't that still on the banned list? And JJ wants to know if these morons realize the majority of Tesla owners are on the left. Yeah, because they all loved him until he supported Donald Trump. Just like Trump, everybody lined up around the block to kiss his ass all the way until he ran for president. And then the media told everybody to hate him, and they did. Same thing with Elon Musk. Lined up around the block to kiss his ass. And now it's like, oh, we have to hate Elon because of his association with Donald Trump. And Trump and Elon are using Doge to steal our money. Your money was already getting stolen. They're trying to fix that, and you're upset. Okay. Yeah, they're trying to fix that. And Puck said, did Versace design the uniforms? I think so, yes. I think it was Versace. Somebody can look that up on Google or whatever you got, Bing. I'm sure you can find it. But yeah, I think it was Versace designed the original Stormtrooper uniforms. Raccoon says, remember when Hugo Boss, or not, no, it was the Gestapo uniforms. I think they designed the Gestapo uniforms. Raccoon says, remember when Hugo Boss had protests outside their stores when it became public that he designed Nazi uniforms? That sounds familiar. And they don't care now. They forgot already. Who remembers I'm not going to play Sun City? Yeah, that's what Puck said. Maybe it was Hugo. I could be wrong. It might not be Versace. Like I said, somebody will look it up, I'm sure, and they can put it in the comment sections. But yeah, remember Sun City? I'm not going to play Sun City, South Africa and apartheid. And yeah, you'll go to those casinos now, won't you? All people says Musk is not genuinely African American. I know, we know. I know. That's the term is for, but he more counts as being African American than a black person that was born in the United States. As we transition here to the next article, and this is going to be a Telegraph article. I thought this was interesting. More theft. Energy supplier collapses after raiding millions from green energy funds. Surprise. There's some irony in here. Energy supplier Rebel Energy has gone bust after allegedly raiding funds that were supposed to be ring-fenced for paying green levies. It means about 80,000 domestic customers and 10,000 businesses have been abruptly left without power and without a supplier. The Bedford-based firm's collapse followed a compliance order imposed a few weeks ago by Ofcom, the energy regulator, and raises new questions about the watchdog's ability to protect customers. Oops. Rebel Energy marked itself as fighting for fairness in energy. That's a quote. That's their company's motto, fighting for fairness in energy, with a website pledging to battle the injustices that burden our customers and the planet. And P.S. will steal the money. It added, we do this by tackling the true cost of energy head on, not by fiddling numbers or buying certificates that let us pretend our energy is green, but by taking direct action to make things better. And then we'll steal your money. So here we go. However, Ofcom's compliance order was imposed after an audit showed 2.6 million pounds sterling missing from a ring-fenced account set aside to collect a type of green levy called renewables obligations. Ofcom's compliance order said that a bank statement provided to it in January showed a balance of 679 pounds in the account when it should have had almost 3 million pounds, which is a shortfall of an additional 4.9 million pounds. The discovery prompted Ofcom to issue an order on March 14th banning Rebel Energy from taking on new customers or making most types of payments. I love that they're called Rebel Energy. Rebel Energy. Well, they were rebels with a cause. The cause was to steal millions of dollars, tax dollars that were funneled into the company for green energy to offset expenses from their customers that they never received. Yeah, I love how this seems to always happen with all these Green Deal contracts. Everyone I read about, somebody's stealing money. Money's missing. Money's misappropriated. People gave themselves fat raises. Customers didn't get what they were supposed to. There's no paper trail. We read that one last week. No paper trail. And that was billions from the Bank of Europe. Or World Bank, excuse me. World Bank missing billions of dollars. No paper trail. No paper trail. And here it is again. And once more, I think it's ironic that they're Rebel Energy. It says Rebel Energy was founded by Dan Bates, previously part of the leadership team from British Petroleum. The company's website said, Rebel Energy is about his vision for a fairer world where profits go towards delivering social and climate change and where good customer service. Hold still. It started bouncing on me. I was on a roll. I lost my place now because it did that. Okay, good customer service doesn't come with a hefty price tag. Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, it came with a very hefty price tag, and they stole your tax dollars. Sven says it was Hugo Boss. Okay. Flukeman says, in your previous podcast, said only American-born citizens can be politicians. I disagree. You had 4 years of Biden and Harris. Could have won last election, or you could have Musk as president. Well, yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there, but Musk is an anomaly. Most of these guys end like Ilham Omar, who come from other countries, and all they give a shit about is their heritage and bringing all their dirty laundry with them. Musk is an anomaly in all of that. All people say green deals are merely greed deals. It's just money laundering. Sure looks that way, doesn't it? Doesn't it look that way? Here's something. Let me see if I can get this to work. Let me see if I can get this link to work properly. This was filmed recently. Hold on a second. Is this going to run? Hold on. I think I got it. I'm just having... Okay. This was filmed recently at a Disneyland or Disney World? Disneyland theme park. Okay. Disneyland theme park. All right. And it just goes to show the sad state of America today. Puck said, did you see billions from U.S. Institute for Peace going to Taliban, Hezbollah, etc. that Musk found? Yes. And they deleted the files. That's right. They deleted the files. I think I remember Musk quoting something like they deleted the files but don't understand how computers work because we found them. Is that the one? Let me see if I can get this to run. Okay. This was filmed at a Disneyland theme park. Watch this. One thing I want to point out real quick, even though the men are bouncing up and down in front of each other, it's only the women getting hit. Did you notice that? And what triggered it, that first woman spat in that guy's face. You could hear it. She spat in his face, and then he punched her in the head. Screaming, But, you know, again, you notice it's just the women getting hit. But, you know, I see video clips like this from all around the country. And it's happening too often in the U.S. Raccoon says she took the punch good. Well, I mean, you have to be able to throw a decent punch to actually hurt somebody with it. Just because that guy's big doesn't mean he knows what he's doing. Monkey said classic Toontown Brawl. JJ says, I think we can see who the instigator here is. And then all people, I'll put that up from all people. Let me run this a little more here. And nobody wants to get in it. You notice that? Kip Paul says normally women normally start fights because they don't think they're going to get hit. Fluke Man says, is anyone in the video not fat? Good question. Most people in the United States are overweight. Brian said people who think someone's tougher because of their size are really dumb. And Puck says that he hopes they have metal detectors at the entrance. Yeah, really. But you see this all across the country now. And once again, I'll go right to the beginning. You can hear it. She spits on him. And that's what triggered. And he started swinging. But again, the men, even though they started bouncing up and down in front of each other, never actually fought. The guy in the white shirt punched that other woman full in the face. I mean, this is something we can get back to another time. But I'm just like, wow, you know, seriously? You see this everywhere now. And everybody films it because that's what they do. They don't want to get involved. And yeah, and Puck says, get involved, you end up like the guy in the subway. Yeah, in New York, that's right. Why would you? Why would you want to help when you're going to get in trouble for it? That's a big part of the problem. You probably end up in more trouble for helping than anything. Take a look at the debt clock here really quick, and we'll see where Doge is. Moving slow, because it was, you know, it's like it was like 273 yesterday, right? So 275 billion, 790 million in projected savings. Looks like it'll hit 276 by tonight. Future tariffs is at 658 billion. We'll see how that looks here in the next few weeks. I'm going to keep a closer eye on that one. But there we go. There we go. So again, you are listening to and/or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk at Prepper University. Oh, and by the way, on Coffee Talk, yesterday I put up an independent video on viewer comments. So there's a viewer comments hate mailbag video up yesterday. If you missed it, check it out if you get the time. You can find me on ScrewTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you again tomorrow.